So this tutorial, I will show you the hidden formulas or hidden trick you can use to be a better designer. I know I've made several videos on this before, but then I still want to, make them to be like a very concise illustration or explanation on how to be a better designer. Bear in mind that most tailors will not tell you this. Some tailors will always be, having this hidden formula they use to grow themselves or to even expand their businesses, but they hardly share. But on this channel, this is where you get raw information, raw knowledge, and free tutorials on how to become a better designer. So the first formula I am going to give you today is on the crotch. Now, on the crotch, you and I know what the crotch is, the crotch of a trouser. Now, most people do have issues on how to get the crotch of a male trouser. Now, I will not bug you with different methods to get the crotch, but I will tell you the one I use and explain to you how I use it. And then you will now go ahead and try it out and then see how impactful it is for you. Now, how I do my crotch is that I make sure I use my hip measurements divided by 4 for my crotch value. I divide my hip by 4 for my crotch value, right? Now, for example, if my hip is 40, I'll divide by 4. That's equals to 10. That's my crotch is 10, right? But then I still have some considerations I make on this formula. Now, I consider when you have a tall client or when you have a short client or a short customer. Now, how do you determine when you have a tall or short client? Now, when you have a length of trouser that is not up to 39, the person is being considered as a short person. That's from 38.5 inches downwards, measurement is being considered as a short person. So what then do you do in such case? Now, all you need to do here is to minus ½ inch from the answer you got from the 40/4 to use it for your crotch value. Now, for example, if this person's length of trouser is 38.5, so I'm just trying to say that you have to minus ½ inch from the 10, you have 9.5 for your crotch. Now, this is just an effect I give on some outfits that the customers are not too tall. But then, if you still find it difficult or find it confusing, you can still maintain the same 10. It will still work for the person as long as your hip value or hip measurement is correct. That if you divide hip by 4, whatever answer you get is for your crotch value. Then, if, for example, again, you have 48 hips, divide by 4 as well, you have 12 crotch. Now, these crotch I am telling you now are for corporate trousers, like plain fabrics, plain trousers. Now, on Ankara, now the reason I had to differentiate or add more value to this tutorial is for you to understand deeply so that you make use of these formulas to work during the season. We're almost at the end of month period and we are going to start working, having much orders. And then this will help you to avoid much mistakes and errors. So now for Ankara, or our normal abada, right? Our normal African print. Then if you are working for a client, some client that the hip is 48 and you got hip of over 4 is 12. Now to give, Ankara is always kind of a very fragile fabric. It tends to tear off easily than the plain fabric, right? So what I do is I will add extra inch plus 1 on this to get the crotch of the Ankara. You get, so that it gives them more room or more ease. It is either you increase the hip value and retain the same crotch answer you have gotten from the hip value, or you add extra 1 to this to get whatever extension of the crotch you have. Now, so for example, if you have a client that has a hip of 48, or let's say for a regular trouser, and you have worked for him and the crotch is 12 for this, for plain trouser, I'm trying to say that if you're working for the same clients with Ankara, it is either you make the hip to be 50, for example, and then divide by 4, then you have 12.5. You get? Or you now divide 48 by 4, that's 12, plus 1, that gives you 13. So it's either you increase the hip to 50, divide by 4 and get 12.5 as crotch, or divide the 48 by 4 and add 1 to it to get 13. So the difference is just ½ inch difference. So you can go either ways to make for Ankara for all sizes. Ankara crotch and plain fabric crotch are not the same. So this is my personal observation and my personal finding, because if I have used the same value to make for clients, and Ankara used to tear off, and they keep on complaining. So the moment I started increasing these values, the problem or the error stopped occurring. So you can as well adopt the method in your own case. That for the crotch calculation, right? So I will not bug you with other formulas to get the crotch. I've made other videos as well on how to get the crotch. I can as well tag the videos in this comment section of the video. Now the next we are going to handle is the armhole. The armhole. Now this armhole, most people don't know that armhole of short sleeve, long sleeve, and three-quarter sleeves, they are not the same. So what do I mean, or how do we differentiate it? Now armholes of short sleeves are a bit free or bigger than the regular long sleeves and three-quarter. So what is the formula for it? Now the formula for armhole is divide the chest by 4. That's for the short sleeve. Then for the long sleeve, you have to minus 1 for it. That's the long sleeves and the long sleeve and three-quarter sleeves are the same. The two of them are being considered or being treated as one pattern. You divide the chest by 4 for the short sleeve. If you're working for long sleeve, you have to minus 1 for either long sleeve or three-quarter. Now, as well, in some other instances, you can encounter a client that do have a protruding stomach, like the chest is way smaller than the stomach. Now, some persons will be confused on which to use for the armhole derivation. Now, the simplest truth is that armhole remains on the armhole region. It does not get to the stomach region, right? So you still have to retain the value of the chest measurement you had to divide by 4, and whatever answer you get, you consider if you're making short sleeve, three-quarter, or long sleeve. If you're making short sleeve, you have to use the whole value for your armhole, or if you're making three-quarter or long sleeve, you have to minus 1 inch from the answer you got for your armhole value, right? So don't misplace or mistakenly use the stomach or the body region or the body measurement to work for the armhole. So you have to maintain and measure the armhole, the chest value, to get the armhole value. The stomach remains the stomach region. You don't need to divide it to use it to derive your armhole, right? So that's for that. Then, in some other cases as well, there are sometimes you have a client that has a very robust chest, that the chest might be even bigger than the tape value you had. I have encountered some clients that just like that. So what then do? I use the shoulder divided by 2 to get their armhole. And this is another trick you can use as well to derive or to get your armhole measurement. Shoulder divided by 2. So another trick I also want to tell you is that if you want to cross-check or verify your measurements of your client, if you divide the hip measurement by 4 plus extra 2 inches, it should be a bit bigger or equal to the lap value divided by 2. Meaning that in some cases, if they did not give you the hip measurement, you can use the lap measurement to get your hip value, especially if they have sent the measurements from another source. So you can divide your lap by 2, and if, for example, lap is 24, for example, divide by 2 is 12, right? By 2, 24, yeah, is 12. Then that means that if you times 12 by 4, it's 48. That means the person that has a hip of the lap of 42, the lap of 24, the hip value should be from 46, 47, 48. Because if you times it by 4, it is 48, right? So in a nutshell, if you have a client's hip value divided by 4 plus 2 should give you the value of your lap measurement divided by 2. So this is some tricks, some recurring constants or recurring values or recurring formulas you can use, to have your way around your fabric. Now, another thing as well, I also want to tell you that in most cases, your customer's neck and shoulder are almost the same. The customer's neck, the difference is always 1 inch, 1.5, highest maximum of 2 inches, right? So the customer's neck and shoulder are almost the same. So if your customer did not give you shoulder value, you can, assume the shoulder, adding extra 1 inch to the neck value, you will get your actual shoulder of your client. That's on a very standard measurement, except on some peculiar body differences where these things might differ, right? So having said this, now another thing as well I want to tell you is on the neckline derivation. So if your customer's neckline, for example, is, let's say, 16, now for you to get the actual value to use in drafting or in cutting the neck width and the neck depth, you have to divide the neck value by 6 and then subtract 0.3 from it. Use the answer for the widthwards cutting and then add ½ inch to that to get the depth of your neck. So this is one of the simplest tricks or ways you can use to achieve all of these things. So now these things I'm telling you are not fairy tale. They are the things I use. So the reason I have to bring this video in a very short form is for it to be handy and for you to have a concise knowledge and access to this. Now, the last but not the least I want to tell you is that if you are drafting a customer's fabric, you must make sure you start drafting from the trouser. Reasons being that in case the fabric ends up not being enough for the top, you can now add fabric to either the sleeve, the front panel, and do combination. It still comes out well. So it's still a formula. Most people don't know it. Most persons end up drafting top first before trouser, which is not ideal, right? So I think I will stop here. So if you derive value from what you have just learned or watched, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. So ask your questions in the comment section of this video. I will go around to reply whenever you drop your question. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.